Magnificent 7 on 107.3 HFM. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes in the wonderful world of the creative arts. By a team of creative artists and arts administrators, the Magnificent 7 introduces you to guests from all aspects of the creative arts. Dance, film, music, photography, theatre, visual arts and writing. Only on 107.3 HFM, Tuesdays between 7 and 9 p.m. This is the voice of your community.
Welcome to Magnificent 7, 107.3 HFM, the voice of your community. You're here with James and Kay on Magnificent 7. We have the lovely guests, Jane Anderson and David Nelson. And as we're counting down 3 seconds to go, James is rushing around the studio taking photos for social media. Unbelievable.
It's what we do.
It's not what we do. We're meant to be radio.
I was told by somebody today that time is elastic. And clearly, it accommodated my needs in the last 3 seconds.
It did. I was going to take the credit for it, but okay, it could be time that did the job. So, Jane and David, welcome. Welcome to the chaos.
Thank you. Hi,
I hope it's everything that you're expecting.
And more.
Okay, so just briefly, we have a cough button here, but I didn't use it because I wasn't ready for that. You're here because you are the directors of Spongebob, the musical.
Yes.
And I was still tinkering and didn't hear, but James was asking the question, why Spongebob? It does seem to be a very relevant question to ask.
It is, I think. Why Spongebob is because we did see it a few years ago on the Tonys, an excerpt from the show, and it piqued our interest.
Right.
So we like different shows. The shows we've co-directed have been, Kinky Boots,
right.
And
That's
I Love You.
Fine film.
It's a great musical
and it's a really good musical written by Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah,
really?
Really good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, really
Didn't
good.
know that.
And so we also did I Love You, You're Perfect, and Now Change, which was downstairs at the Madge last year.
Right.
So we like something that's not the norm.
Yeah.
And this just piqued our interest because it does appeal to a wide range of people that don't necessarily go to the theatre. And I think that's a really important thing for some people to have their first trip to the theatre and see something that's relevant, exciting and entertaining.
Yeah. Well, you'd think that would be the aim of any show, but yeah, I see what you mean. It's not necessarily for your regular theatre goer.
No.
So do you have a particular target audience for this? I mean, it's SpongeBob, so one could think that you're targeting kids and families, but I'm getting the impression that might not be the target audience.
No, look, SpongeBob has been around for about 30 years, and we could tell by the people that turned up at the auditions and also the cast, there is very much a cult following, rather like back in our day, the Flintstones, and that wasn't aimed necessarily at kids, or The Simpsons.
Yeah, good example.
You know, they're the types of shows that have longevity, and it's because people grow up with them and they're very much a situational type thing. And while SpongeBob kids can understand, it definitely has references that go all ages as well, and I think that's what attracts people to the show, is the actual fact that it does appeal to people that watched it back in the day when they were younger and are now watching it with their kids or their grandkids and still finding it entertaining.
Excellent. I think we're going to dive into that a little bit more, but we're going to go to a song. This is actually Jane's song, I think, Let's Dance by David Bowie.
Yes, David Bowie. He's one of the writers in the musical, so we decided that we'd throw that in. And it's a really good upbeat number.
It's a great number.
And it's got a wide appeal.
Yeah, I thought that's why we'd start the top of the show with it. But we'll come back to the writers in SpongeBob as well, because that's a whole nother story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. That was Let's Dance by David Bowie, a great song. So, folks, tell us a little bit about what you consider to be your craft. You know, is this your craft, and when did you discover what it was that you wanted to do? Is it always been the theatre space, or has it been acting, or...?
Jane will go first on that one.
I started as a dancing girl, as most young ladies in Western Australia do. Started dancing at 5, doing ballet and stuff like that. But I've always been drawn to musical theatre. I have done a few plays, but musical theatre is the bomb for me because I can sing, I can dance. Not a great actress, but then back in my day, if you could sing and dance, you could be in the musicals because the acting doesn't matter. But nowadays it does matter. We got into directing because you'd go along and see shows and say, oh, gee, I could have done that better. You know, they should have done this and they should have done that. And
James has no idea what you mean.
Possibly comment.
And it's like, I was too scared to do it on my own. So I sort of said to David, because he'd actually done a couple of shows on his own, and a couple of musicals, big musicals, and I said, I wanted to do Kinky Boots, and I said, will you do it with me? And it sort of started a partnership with us. So we started to direct. I just enjoy the whole thing, don't we? We like to be able to put the show together. You know, we love getting our cast. We love organising the costumes and the props and bringing all these fabulous, talented people together. You're sort of coordinating it all, and so I mean, I still consider myself a performer, but I definitely love directing as well. I think that's a big part of my life going forward, because as you get older, you don't really have enough opportunities for performance. So, yeah, directing will be where it's at.
It does inform your perspective on as being a director, though, I think. So you're
being a performer.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all very well if somebody was to walk in off the street who's got no idea about the actual realities of the performance experience, and then say, "Oh, you over there, do this thing."
Yeah.
And it's practically unrealistic for that to happen.
But it does happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
and it's true too, because I haven't only I've danced. I've just been a dancer. I've been just a singer. I've sung in bands all my life. I've done acting, but I've also done all the tech. I've done backstage, I've stage managed, I've done the lights, I've done the sound. So I have a very broad, if very sort of thin, it's like a jack of all trades type of approach to things. So as a director, I think that's very useful to have all that.
Do you think that's a very West Australian thing, or do you think that's the norm in theatre, to actually have the option to have such a broad variety of experience?
I think it was the norm. I think it's very much changing now. People either want to be on stage and on stage only, or they want to be backstage. I think that's a real detriment to people that want to only be on stage, because they don't learn the whole craft of theatre. They don't know about lights or sound or backstage, or have a care for it. So there needs to be, in a show, which is what Jane and I are really big on, is it's teamwork. You have to be reliant on your backstage crew, your musicians, your lighting people. So you need to know who they are, and you need to respect them as much as you respect your actors on stage.
Yeah, and have some empathy for what they're going through and the difficulties they might have.
That's right. Exactly. And so many times, particularly, I think I've noticed as an actor, is that you see some actors just go, "Oh, here," and just hand it to them. You know, they come off stage with their prop and they throw it or something like that. But that's a real human being who is doing it in an artistic way differently. So they're actually artistic in their own way. They're just not on stage, but they're still part of the whole theatrical experience. And I think that's sort of what we're losing a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, interesting. And I think you're probably very right. So, David, when did you remember, first getting involved in theatre?
I've been in theatre since I was 12.
Right.
I've done everything, I think. I've done plays, I've done musicals, I've been on TV, I've done commercials, I've done radio, I've worked as a stage manager, there's this lighting, sound, prompt behind a fireplace many times. Done it professionally as well a little bit. Just jack of all trades again. But I think that as you get older, you do. I know that when I'm a big reader, and when I've read books or I read a script, I can visualise things, and I've always been able to do that. I couldn't tell you why. Mm-hmm. It's just something that I've been able to do, is read things and visualise how it should look on the stage.
Right. And
so that's what lent me to what would I like to direct as I've gotten older. And my first direction was Boeing at Play Lovers.
Right.
And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I did my first big musical, which was Sweet Charity, then moved on to The Wedding Singer, and then Kinky Boots. So I love directing. I also love performing. I was in the producers for Alexandra Theatre. I played Roger, the gay director.
That would have been a fun role.
That was very fun, yes. Yes, it was a lot of fun. Really hard work, but it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Let's go to another couple of songs. If you can hear the tapping going on in the background, James is obviously on socials at the moment, so if you want to message us, then you can feel free to do so, and that would be on the Magnificent Seven's Facebook page.
Indeed.
It sounds like you'll find the aforementioned photo up there as well.
Yes, well, 2 of them.
Good grief. Okay, definitely time for a couple of songs. After a short break, we're going to go to Home by Edward Sharp and the Magnificent Magnetic Zeros. Yeah, that's one of yours, Jane.
Oh, yes. I had never actually heard of that band before I found out that they had written for Spongebob. So I made it my mission to go and check out all these bands that I hadn't heard of, and these guys are amazing. They're sort of a folky country type of band, and I think everyone will really love this song.
Yeah, it's a good song, and of course after that we've got The Power of Love, Huey Lewis.
Dave.
Yeah, my husband walked in the room and it's like, good song, you're going to have good guests.
Yeah.
Like, All right, here we go.
Get ready for the Live Lighter Canning Show, spread over 3 sessions again this year on Friday the 5th and Saturday the 6th of November. One of WA's best value events is back, the Live Lighter Canning Show. Now one of Perth's biggest community celebrations. Cheap tickets come packed with free entertainment, fireworks, animals, performances, exhibits, aquatic themed fun, unique experiences and more. Plus, it's stacked with sideshow rides, show bags, food trucks and games galore. The Live Lighter Canning Show. Have you booked in your fun on Friday the 4th and Saturday the 5th of November? Tickets only available through Eventbrite, station sponsor.
My eye, girl, I never loved one like you. Man, oh man, you're my best friend. I scream it too. There's nothing there ain't nothing that I need. Well, hot and heavy pumpkin pie, chocolate candy, Jesus Christ, ain't nothing please me more than you. Oh, let me go home. Through the jungle, through the dark, girl, I I sure do. You came jumping out after me.
Well, you fell on the concrete, nearly broke your ass, and you were bleeding all over the place, and I rushed you off to the hospital. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, there's something I never told you about that night.
What did you tell me?
While you were sitting in the back seat smoking a cigarette you thought was going to be your last, I was falling deep, deeply in love with you, and I never told you till just now. Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
Oh, home. Yes, I am home. Home is when I'm alone with you. My heart gets sore. I get up my heart and fly. Mountain, waterfall.
Home is
And you're back with James and Kay on the Magnificent Seven with Jane and David joining us tonight. Now, we've talked a little bit about you guys having worked together in the past. That seems to be a really successful pairing for the two of you. I imagine that there are pitfalls as well as advantages in that kind of a system?
We tend to work really well together. I think we have moments, but it's generally...
We call ourselves the Wonder Twins because we actually have the same ideas. So when we get together, we say, "I had this idea about," and he said, "So have I." So it's like we're very of a mind, and we haven't had any clashes at all, have we? No.
Do you find that you have skills which one of you is better at than the other?
Yeah, we definitely complement each other.
Yeah. Jane is definitely the production side.
Yep.
She's great with organisation. I'm useless, and I'm good with the direction side.
And he's the people person as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm not a people person, but Dave will, schmooze people.
Drum them up.
Yeah,
Drum
and just say, come on, come and help, and things like that. Yeah.
Offer them favours.
Yeah.
But no, it works well. I usually, once Jane has told me, like when she mentioned Kinky Boots, I sort of went, no chance in hell. We're never going to get the drag queens. We're never going to have 6 drag queens. Well, we got them because we started schmoozing. And I thought about it. I went home and I usually have a dream that usually tells me yes or no. And I had the dream that it was happening, and that's what started it. And then of course we cast our Lola and it went from there. And it was the same sort of thing with this. Quite often I'll ring, I'm her theatre husband, and her husband Mal says, "Oh, it's your theatre husband," or she'll say it's the theatre husband took calling, because I will call 2 or 3 times a day because I've Googled or I've thought of an idea. And 9 times out of 10 she said, "Yeah, I've thought of that too, that's a great idea, we were on the same page."
So you just call up and say, "Jane, I have an idea, make it so."
Yeah, pretty much.
Fantastic.
So you were saying before off air that you tend to find a challenge in each one of your shows.
Yes.
What's been the greatest challenge that you've found and conquered?
Ooh, that's interesting.
You mentioned the getting the conveyor belt sorted out for the Kinky Boots show.
Yes.
Do you want to talk briefly about how you what solution you found for that?
That was a challenge. I don't know how people did without Google back in the day.
Yes.
Because it's great now. You can Google anything and you can just go, "Hey Google, how do you do this?" And generally there's someone out in the world that's done the show before that might give you ideas or something. With the conveyor belts, we just were struggling to try and think what we could do. If anyone's seen the show, they know that in the musical the conveyor belts not only move, but they move apart for people to dance on individually. And we wanted that desperately for the show. So what we did was we actually had a bit of a confab and worked out that you could use treadmills. How was another issue. And so Jane's husband Mal had been dragged in to do the props, and he's doing the props for this as well. He's become very theatrical, forced to by us. But anyway, he said there's no way it's going to happen. We can't do it. I can't think of anything. You will need the battery the size of a truck to run these things. Well, we had our lovely choreographer Dixie Johnston, who's part of ZP Productions. She brought Adam's Family to the Regal last year. Basically, she asked her husband John, "What do you think?" He came down and had a look, and we devised a way of working it all out through...
And I went and got some truck batteries.
Yeah. They had to be charged every night, and touch wood, they worked every night.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. Okay, well, it's part of the creative nature of theatre people, isn't it? To
collaborate.
Oh, absolutely. We have to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And in this one, we've had to create some extra legs for one of our performers, and it took us a lot of Googling to finally work out how we were going to create the legs so that the person looks like they've got 4 legs. So
finally I found there was a demonstration of how a group had done it in the US, and they YouTubed the whole process So then I sent it to Jane and Mal was able to decipher from there how to do it. And those legs just are superb. They work really well. People that have come to see the rehearsal have just gone, oh my God, that's hilarious that you've actually got 4 legs on this person. It's very funny.
Were they mounted in front of or behind the primary legs?
They're behind, yeah.
I've seen some street performers where they basically have the joints connected to the extra legs, and it looks as if you got up to 8 people. Either side.
That's right, either side of them. Yeah. But this actually has to look like it's natural, like it is part of their whole body. So it's just an extension of their body. They actually have 4 legs.
Oh, wow.
And so it moves, they have to move like legs, and that's the hard part. Yeah.
Gosh, unreal. Okay, Panic at the Disco did a song called Death of a Bachelor.
Yes.
Whose choice was this?
That was me. I love Panic at the Disco. I mean, that was probably one of the reasons why I sort of really delved into Spongebob, the soundtrack, because Panic at the Disco is one of my all-time favourite bands. They're very theatrical in what they do. And I thought this is quite a modern Panic at the Disco song, because I like their older stuff, but this will probably appeal to some of your younger listeners.
But it's quite surprising, the song that they wrote in the actual show sounds nothing like anything they've written.
Yeah, they're very versatile though. You wouldn't have heard all their albums, and every album is completely different.
Yeah, okay. We'll listen to Death of a Bachelor.
Do I look lonely? I see the shadows on my face. People have told me I don't look the same. Maybe I lost weight. I'm playing hooky with the best of the best. Put my heart on my chest so that you can see it too. I'm walking the long road, watching the sky fall. The lace in your dress tangles my neck. How do I live the death of a bachelor? Letting the water fall. The death of a bachelor. Seems so fitting for happily ever after. How could I ask for more? Lifetime of laughter at the expense of the death of a bachelor. I'm cutting my mind off. Feels like my heart is going to burst. Alone at a table for 2, and I just wanna be served. And when you think of me, am I the best you've ever had? Share one more drink with me. Smile even though you're sad. I'm walking the long road, watching the sky fall. The lace in your dress tangles my neck. How do I live the death of a bachelor? Letting the water fall. The death
You're right, that was a great song. Thanks, Jane. Panic at the Disco. James, we have a community service announcement, I believe, according to my little schedule here.
Righto, here's one which I just happen to have before me.
One you prepared earlier?
It is. Righty-ho. So, do you know a local community hero or outstanding community group? The City of Gosnells invites you to nominate an outstanding individual or group for one of this year's Community Citizen of the Year awards to be presented on Australia Day, the 26th of January. Presumably that's next year. More information on the awards and submitting a nomination can be found on the Community Citizen of the Year Awards website, www.citizenshipawards.com.au. Nominations are now open and will close on the 31st of October. And that is that.
Very nice. Thanks.
My pleasure.
We had Natalie Gravison on a while back, and we were talking a little bit about her start, and she was very, very young when she started in theatre, and she's got a daughter now who's about the same age as mine was when mine was doing theatre. So I'm kind of recognising that theatre is a really good opportunity for young people to be involved in. Do you feel that your experiences in theatre when you're very young has helped you in other areas of life other than just in musical theatre, but elsewhere?
In every way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's some nodding there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it helps you communicate with all types of people and be empathetic towards all types of people.
Right, okay.
Because you do meet so many different people in theatre, and you have to adapt to the old grumpy man or the person who might be a little bit different or alternative, and they're all part of theatre. They all want to be involved. They just have many different personalities, and you have to adapt to those personalities as do they. So I think that in real life then you're able to adapt to situations that most other people wouldn't be able to, because you've worked there before, you've done that before.
Does it give you a sense of resilience, perhaps?
You're very good at problem solving, because in live theatre you have to make split decisions. Like if something goes wrong on stage, you have to make a decision in that moment to save that performance. So you get very good at thinking on the spot, coming up with ideas, and as we were saying before, there's a lot of little technical problems and things that you get really good at coming up with ideas of how to solve problems. You've got budget constraints. How are we going to do this with $6,000? It's a $100 million show, and we're going to do it for $6,000. How are we going to do that? So you get very creative. It builds your confidence. I am so much better in my organisational skills. It's discipline. If you're sick, you just turn up anyway. Get it done. We've both got stories where we've been so unwell, but we still turned up for the performance, had a bucket on the side of the stage, threw up, gone back on stage and continued. It builds resilience.
It also builds spontaneity and also that kind of thing, and being able to socialise in a situation. So I think particularly for people who are shy, or people who don't necessarily go to hotels or clubs or anything like that, it gives them the confidence to be able to go into a workplace and actually speak to people.
I think it's because you have that, maybe if it's nice, it doesn't even need to be a common interest, but it's a position of speaking from a known place.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're talking about the Spongebob musical as we are tonight, then they're able to go and talk to these people about what it is they do, what their association is with that idea.
Absolutely. And I also think that from the point of view of dealing with issues on stage as well, so not just budget constraints and things like that, I know that over the years there's been mishaps that have happened on stage that you just have to carry on with.
Oh, yeah.
So, sets falling or mics not working or
Costume, yeah.
your costume doesn't work on time and you accidentally...
Costume malfunction?
Yes, costume malfunction, and you may accidentally flash your bum to the audience. Things like that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Naming no names.
I think being in the theatre also gives you opportunities you wouldn't otherwise have.
Absolutely.
Is there any particular thing that comes to mind, an opportunity you've had that you would recommend other people have the opportunity to try or experience?
I would say go along to your local community theatre if you have any sort of thing where you're like, I want to socialise but I'm not a sports person, I don't go down to the pub, I'm lost at what I can do, I don't game, so I'm not at home on the internet or anything, but I don't know whether I'd enjoy it or not. Community theatre, it offers something for everybody, so even if you don't want to be on stage, you can work behind the bar, or you might be someone who...
So many of
an
our-
usher.
Yeah.
And...
Costumes.
Yeah.
We've got lots of people who come in and just want to get involved in doing the costumes or doing a little bit of sewing or something like that. Some retired gentlemen come down and just say, I just want to help out building sets and things like that. So there's so many different jobs that people can do in the theatre, and they've got that beautiful community there where they've got, like you're saying, a common interest which brings people together. So if they're working on a show, they've got something to talk about, which leads on to friendships being made and sort of a more
So many of
social
our
circle.
other guests preceding you have said a similar thing, where those people who want to get involved with the theatre should come along, and they can do the thing that they want to do, but they'll actually get more out of it, more out of the whole idea if they are just willing to make the tea,
Pitch in,
work in at the bar, do the usher stuff, as well as
a
doing
lot
the
of
stuff
them
on stage.
and that's the key, is that I think you get more out of it if you do more. So if you volunteer to do the bar because you don't necessarily want to do this next show, you get more in terms of friendship, but you also, I think, get more life experience for those younger ones that want to audition for Whopper or NIDA or things like
Whatever
that,
it might be.
and they audition every year and don't get in, and a lot of the time it's their life experience. It's got nothing to do with the fact that they've played from the ages of 12 to 17 every lead in the show. It's because they don't have the life experience to deal with this as a career. Because this is why you go to Whopper and NIDA, and that is because it's a career. It's not about being a star, and unfortunately a lot of people go with the wrong idea of being a star. You're going to these places to learn your craft, to create yourself a career. Now, you might only ever be a chorus member in every single show, but to me, if I was doing that professionally, I would love it. I would love it.
I've got an interesting anecdote for you. You were saying, Jane, that you started off as a chorus girl and dancer.
I'm worried.
So did you?
Yes, can't you tell? I look lovely in a tutu. A number of years ago, I was in the UK, and one of the first, in fact, the first female Speaker of the Houses of Parliament was a lady called Dame Betty Boothroyd, who was famously a tiller girl, a dancing girl on stage, and that's what she ended up doing. And I ended up photographing her, so she was lovely.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it gives a lot of people grounding to be able to do those types of things, and confidence.
Yeah.
But I think that unfortunately now there's so many reality shows around The Voice, Australian Idol, all these things that create falsities, that if you've got a good voice, you're just going to become this big star and you're going to make money, and that's not the reality. The reality is that if you want to do it as a profession because there's nothing else that you think that you want to do, then you're going to do it as a career where you may have periods of unemployment, where you may fall into it and be lucky enough to move forward with things.
Yeah.
Or be determined enough. Like Tim mentioned, Tim was determined that he was going to do what he wanted to do because he couldn't think of anything else. but he was prepared to be penniless.
He was also prodigiously talented.
Yeah,
And I think that's what a lot of people miss.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was prepared because there are a lot of talented people out there who don't make any money.
Because they don't do the hard graft.
That's right. But he was prepared to not make any money and still do the craft.
Any success like that also needs a level of luck, which you can't necessarily predict. You can put in all the hard yards in the world and sometimes it just doesn't happen.
That's right.
Exactly.
But what I do like about what you were saying earlier about community theatre and the roles is that sometimes people can be worried that they're going to cut off, take more than they can handle, time commitments. But doing something like, as you said, behind the bar or helping out with wardrobe can be a relatively small time commitment and still have that opportunity to be connected to a show.
Yeah, and make you feel proud of it. Like, you'll get to know the actors and you get to know the director and chat with them, and then you sort of take ownership of the fact that it's not just a show for the actors and the director, it's for the ushers and for the bar staff and for the person that comes down and does the spotlight.
And the guy who dressed in black who, brings thing on and off the stage, which is the role I sucked my dad into.
Yeah, and you get them excited about it.
Yeah. Well, you can't help but get excited. And there's a real intimacy that gets created between the members of a show.
Very
people involved.
Absolutely.
That can last kind of forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Another song. We're going to have a short break and then we're going to go to Need You Now, Lady Antebellum. Yes.
Excellent.
And then Adele, Drink Wine. Now, David, I know that I chose this song, but due to circumstances beyond my control, this is the reggae mix.
Oh, I've not heard the reggae mix. I'm very interested to hear what that's like.
Well, you and me both.
Does your business have a good web presence? Are you missing business opportunities by having an outdated web page? Did you know there are 6 important tips to boost your web personality? Let station sponsor Antonovich Design build or update your web page. Your website will be custom designed to suit your needs, working directly with our experienced designers. Get more leads and more conversions with a web page that is browser friendly and works on all devices. Call Antonovich Design on 0449 134 191.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community, is proudly supported by
Cartridge World, Armidale.
Ausland 181.
Neighbourhood Watch, Armidale.
Become a corporate member and support the voice of your community. Go to the webpage heritagefm.org for email details or to find out more.
It's a quarter after 1. I'm all alone and I need you now. Said I wouldn't call, but I lost all control and I need you now. And I don't know how I can do without. I just need you now.
a 1:15. I'm all alone and I need you now.
And I said I wouldn't call, but I'm a little drunk and I need you now.
And I don't know how I can do without. I just need you now. I just nothing from me. You just want me. You better believe me trying to keep climbing. But the higher we climb, feels like we're both none the wiser.
I think I may have convinced Dave that the reggae version's okay.
Yeah, I liked that.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community. This is the Magnificent Seven, and we're talking to Jane and David about Spongebob. And Spongebob is associated with Alexandra Theatre, who has a fine president. Fine president.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I could tell quite a few tales about that president.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about that.
I've known him a very long time. I refer to him as Madam President.
Yes.
Which you would appreciate, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
So Alexandra Theatre has obviously, they did My Fair Lady, because we had Nat on before, and they're, backing SpongeBob. And is there plans for another show already, or...?
Not that we know.
Not that we know of.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think David Hardy's got something in the works, but he hasn't told us what it is yet.
No. Yeah, we don't know.
And prior to My Fair Lady, it was
the producers.
Yeah.
Was the first show they did.
That was the first show they did, which Dave was in.
Yes.
And there we are, directing one for them.
Yeah. Wow. And Alexandra Theatre certainly seems to be, moving and shaking in these times, which are quite difficult.
Yeah. I'm not sure what their future plans are, but they're doing all right for the last couple of years.
Yeah. which is an unusual thing in this day and age, because it is very difficult to mount a show.
Yeah,
as we were talking
particularly in
about off
professional theatre.
Yeah.
And I know that's what their vision was, to do community theatre in a professional setting. It's really good for the people who are in the show. I know we've certainly learnt a lot since doing this,
and it's good for like we were talking about before, for people that are shy, that will never necessarily want to be professional performers, and that it gives them the chance to work on a professional stage. Really good experience for them. And that's what I think the whole vision was, to get everybody to experience at some point working on a stage like the Regal.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive vision.
Yeah.
We were talking about SpongeBob, and we're going to go to a couple of songs after we've chatted here. One of them by Yolanda Adams, and one of them by Steven Tyler and Joe perry.
Yeah, from
written by
Aerosmith.
them. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the music behind it and the writers of the music, because it's quite an astonishing list of people.
It's amazing. So Yolanda Adams, that you mentioned, she's a multi-Grammy award-winning gospel person, which I've heard her, but she's an amazing singer, and she is a prolific songwriter as well, which I didn't know. But Super C Star Saviour is one of the great numbers in the show, many of them, but there are so many great songwriters. T.I., who is a rapper, has written a hip-hop song that's very good. You've got Lady A, as they're called now. Say the other. They've written a song, Cyndi Lauper, John Legend, Aerosmith, as we said, Panic at the Disco. You've got They Might Be Giants.
They Might Be Giants, yeah.
And if you've ever seen Malcolm in the Middle, their theme song, that's They Might Be Giants.
Well, yeah.
So a lot of various music. So it varies from gospel to hip hop to country to ballads to rock. It's just got a bit of everything.
And the music, from what I've heard so far, is very catchy. Sometimes you're a bit nervous about going to a musical where you don't know the music already, but there must be some familiarity here, because we're so familiar with the songwriting of these amazing artists already.
I think that's very deliberate too. Tina Landau, who did the original conception and direction of the musical, she went out to these people and asked them to write songs for the show. So she wanted it to be eclectic in its musical styles, and which reflects the original cartoon, because the SpongeBob cartoon is very chaotic. That's probably.
But it's also very eclectic in its music as well. Like if you watch the movies, they also have. I mean, they had David Hasselhoff sing a song at some point.
Yeah.
You know, so they are very cheeky in who they get on board. And I think what you were referring to before within musical theatre, that has changed over the years, but a lot of people come along, especially the males of us. I know that I have several times gone to a show and gone, I have to sit through 10 minutes of an orchestration before the curtains have even opened, and then I've got to hear the same song 3 times because they revise it, the reprise. Then we're going to open the second half and it's going to be music before they start it again. And this show doesn't have any of that. You launch straight into the show. So it doesn't have any sort of overture. It's just straight into the show. And there's no like reprises of a song 5 times, and so it's very different to a typical musical.
And the guy who put the music together, Tom Kitt, he's actually a very good songwriter and has written quite a few musicals himself, but he was the musical director and he put it all together. He has done a brilliant job of taking all these different songs from different artists and actually making a cohesive whole in the show.
I was wondering about that.
And the harmonies, wow, they're really difficult. Hats off to our cast, they are doing an amazing job.
We've got 4 and 6 part harmonies quite often.
Most of the time 6-part harmony. So you've got, the girls split into 3 and the boys split into 3, and
so you've got a treble and a contrabass as well, have you?
Wow!
And they go from a cappella to full on band, and they do. There's a pirate song where they sing like with a pirate accent, and they're really pushed to their limits. I think.
Can I ask you, because I'm of an age where SpongeBob, the TV show, hasn't been part of my upbringing. What is the basic premise behind the story?
Well, I think that the basic premise is just craziness when you watch that cartoon, and that's why I think it appeals to everybody. And the musical itself is totally different, and that's why I think that the rights for the show, for instance, you can't actually perform any of the songs outside of the musical realm. You can't use the Nickelodeon cartoon and things like that because it is very different.
Separate,
and totally separate. So
the premise for the musical then?
The premise for the musical is based on basically the characters, but they're real people, but it's also the fight to save their town from being destroyed by Mount Humongous.
So there's a volcano
that's about to...
An underwater volcano.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's got some fairly modern concepts floating around there.
Absolutely.
Excuse the pun.
I certainly did, though.
It really examines how people behave in times of crisis, which is sort of like that general theme of the show. It's actually quite dark. It talks about global warming, and it looks at how people behave. Like if they're about to be obliterated, then do they turn to religion or do they turn to the government to help save them? Do they just go out in the streets and riot?
Or there's a corrupt person that gives them an idea that they all latch on to because, he's the only one that's coming up.
People are taking advantage of the situation by making money out of it and things like that. So very, very topical themes all the way through it. And on the top, there's this SpongeBob who's very optimistic and won't say die and works out how the hell he's going to save the town. So that's the story running across the top, and then there's all this dark stuff underneath.
Like one example is that SpongeBob wants Patrick to help him and Sandy to save the volcano
save the town.
Save the town, not the volcano. And Patrick gets caught up with a cult of sardines. Because they've latched, because he makes an announcement in front of the mayor and they think that that's what's going to save them. He's the saviour. And so gradually all the sardines start gathering, and the big number, which is Super Sea Star, is all the sardines basically worshipping Patrick because he said life smells weird, and they think that's deep. and they've latched onto him as being the saviour who's going to take them away from the town.
Wow.
All right, we have to listen to that now. So we're going to listen to Super Sea Star Saviour first, and then Bikini Bottom Boogie,
Yes.
which is second.
Which is the Aerosmith number.
Yeah.
Which I think they'll probably pick that.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe I found the star. I believe I found the superstar. We believe we found the superstar sea star who will save us all. Patrick Star. We've been hoping, we've been searching everywhere, and we finally found the answer to our prayer. He said we should close our eyes, which made us realize that Patrick is the one who will save us from our demise. So give it up. Give it up. Raise the sound. Raise the sound. Tell everyone. Tell everyone to gather around. For we have found our shining star. Yes, he is. Oh yeah. The great one. Great one. Grand one. Grand one. Guru. Guru one. Patrick Star is our super sea star savior. Patrick Star.
Hey, I think they're singing about me.
Really? We hadn't noticed.
This is weird, you guys, but I like having all you around. Hey, look at all the new friends that I have found. Your savior wants some cake. Does anybody bake? I'm ready for a break now. Can someone bake me a ginormous cake? And give it up. Raise the sound. Tell everyone. To gather around. For I might be your shining star. The great one. Grand one. Guru. One we can turn to. Super sea star savior. Me, Patrick Star.
Patrick Star.
Well, as your leader, I will complete you. Glad someone's following me. Now where we'll go? I don't know. I know it when I see it.
Great big one, you are everything. There's great big wisdom in all you say.
Like this big roll, big roll.
He's our star, great star. He's our star, great star. He's our star, great star. He's our star, great star.
For he is
Yes, I know what you mean. I'm like bopping around to that, and it's I didn't actually listen to it very much before, so that's almost the first time I've heard it, and I'm still dancing around to it. So they're pretty.
They're great songs.
They're great songs. Tickets. If somebody wanted to get tickets, do you still have some available, and how would they go about getting them? And let's confirm the dates. I'm trying to read your shirt.
Dates.
Dates.
It's written right there.
27th to the 30th of October this year. So not very far away now.
No.
So just for the one weekend. So we've got Thursday, Friday, 2 shows on Saturday and a show on Sunday.
Yep, Sundays at 3 o'clock, which is I think is a lovely time.
Yeah, it's a good
for
time.
people to sort of go.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think the matinee on Saturday is 1. But because we're only doing, is it 2 o'clock? Is it? Oh, 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And
2
then
o'clock
an evening
Saturday,
as well.
3 o'clock Sunday. You can get tickets through Ticketek. So they're premier.ticketek.com.au.
Yep.
And if you just put SpongeBob in their search, it should just pop up straight away.
Oh, SpongeBob Perth would do the job pretty easily.
So you put just SpongeBob in there.
Or Alexandra Theatre, I presume, is going to do a link, and James has been tapping away. So
the Alexandra Theatre Facebook page has got the link for it as well.
So I was just searching to see if there was any other ways you could get into the production to find out about either tickets or times or anything like that. But,
did you put it on the Magnificent 7 Facebook page?
I haven't done yet, but I will
but
do
it
so.
will. Okay, well, here's some more ticking. Look at that. It's a great idea.
Yes.
Genius. Hey, Jane, in the notes that you sent me earlier, there was a quote that really resonated with me, and it said, "The power of optimism really can save the world." How did you mean that in reference to the show? And do you think that's got, particularly in this at the moment, does that have greater resonance around the world?
Oh, absolutely. The whole show is about SpongeBob and his unrelenting optimism. He wants everyone to be happy, basically, and he goes around saying things like, "Oh, this is going to be the best day ever," and everybody gets down on him and says, "Oh, you always say that," sort of thing. But he's consistent all the time, and so when disaster strikes, he maintains his optimism, and it's only because he won't give up that the town is actually saved. And I think people don't realise that it only takes one person to start a revolution, and it takes them nearly losing their town to realise that SpongeBob optimism is probably the right way to go, and they start to realise that if they all pull together, they can save their town or rebuild their town. So it's definitely something that I feel we need to embrace in our own lives. We get very negative in the media and things like that, and there's a little bit of a swell of that optimism of sort of everybody sort of trying to manifest, for a better word, a better world, a better life. If everybody believes that we can do it, then it will happen. And so I just think that the correlation between what's happening in the world today and the story of SpongeBob is very relevant.
That's quite remarkable. This is an arts show. We're talking about a musical theatre production, so it's very light-hearted.
Yes.
But I was talking to a very good friend today who's written a book, and it's being published before the end of the year, and she's talking about how to change the world and the power of being able to have cooperation between companies and organisations instead of this competition that we have. And we have amazing discussions about what that would mean.
Yeah.
And, this comes into it as well. This optimism and community and coming together is something that, has to start at a ground roots level and then build from there.
And that's the interesting thing with this show, is that everybody splits apart and then comes back together by the end of it. So as Jane was saying, there's different cultures within the fish. Like there's the sardines, there's mobfish, there's jellyfish, there's all sorts of different people, and they're of their own like and believability until SpongeBob convinces them otherwise. And then what happens is that they all start to band together, and it's when they band together it makes change. which is extremely relevant in these times. And it was written at a time of very big conflict in the US. And so it's extremely relevant to them at that time, and it really resonated with the Broadway community in particular. It was nominated for 13 Tonys, which is one of the most nominated shows ever. And I think it's because of the message that it was sending at that point in time in their
2017
history.
Yeah.
You know, that it was...
but the message doesn't change, does it?
No,
it hasn't changed.
It still hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. No one's learnt anything, you know. But when you see this show and you see all these underlying things, you may not see it, but we hope that we've done enough for people to think, wow, okay, fun show, but gee, I wasn't expecting this, or I wasn't expecting to be as involved with the story as I was.
Or still thinking about it that couple of days later when you're driving to work, and it's that's right.
Yeah, because we've been working on this script for 18 months now, and we're still finding things in it. It's such a dense script, and yet on the surface it just looks like this weird, funny, you know, quirky show with these amazing songs. But you know, we're still finding depth to the script, and it's not a big script. No, it's only a 2-hour show, so it's not like we're not hammering people over the head with it. But I think, like you said, people will realise afterwards. They'll walk out with a great big smile on their face, and then a couple of days later, things will start to hit home. That okay.
Hopefully, they'll tell people and come back during the weekend and go, well, I saw it on the Thursday night. I'm going to bring some more friends on this Friday or Saturday night and watch it again, because there'll be something different
It'll be
that
very
you'll
different,
see.
Yes, so much stuff happening on stage. Each show will be very different.
James, we should sneak in another community service announcement if you've got one you've prepared earlier.
Look at that. How convenient.
Very good at this.
Do you enjoy art and craft activities?
I do.
Do you like to learn new techniques?
Yes, I do.
That's 2 yeses. Come along and get creative. Join us each month to socialise, learn new craft skills and share any crafty hidden talents. You can do so on the 4th Tuesday of each month from 10:30 in the morning until midday at the Knowledge Centre on 2232 Albany Highway, Gosnells, and it's suitable for adults. For further information, could you try calling 93916000 or email library_queries@gosnellswa.gov.au.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
While we're on that topic of craftiness, we had Julia Sutton and Pauline White on this show. Was it about 6 weeks ago? A little while ago. And they were great. They were textile artists, and they were with a group called WAFTA, which has got the most fantastic name, WAFTA, WAFTA. Now, I actually saw them yesterday because they came here for a IT talk, and they were telling me that their show starts on Friday for VIPs, and then on Saturday the actual show starts. It's called 25 Plus, and you can find it by going to the WAFTA website, which is WAFTA, and they are actually running a workshop which is about knotless netting, weaving and coiling. It actually looks quite cool. Apparently, if you've got a favourite stone, you can bring it on, and it's about like wrapping these things in raffia or something.
Oh, wow.
So it actually sounds really cool.
It's actually a pretty cool looking website.
It's black and red, and it's really...
I sound surprised. No, it's pretty cool.
It's an artist website. It should be pretty cool. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Speaking of cool, we're going to go to No Control, which is David Bowie and Brian Eno wrote this one. Yeah, there's smiles all round. And
very, very different song, this one, so be prepared.
Okay, brace yourselves, we like that. And then Hero Is My Middle Name, which was written by Cyndi Lauper and Rob Hyman.
Yes. Yep.
Cyndi Lauper, she's back again.
Yes.
Yeah. I was watching one of her pieces, and the comment was down the bottom was just, we do not recognise the quality of her voice.
Yeah. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing, and an amazing songwriter. Like,
she is,
the Kinky Boots lyrics and music is just incredible. And she's currently writing the score for the movie the movie Working Girl.
Yes.
There's a musical going to be coming up, and she's written the score for that as well. Yeah.
Who knew? Well, you guys knew. There you go. And you heard it first, or probably second or third or like 100th on 107.3.
Probably first, knowing the Perth audiences. That's not being disparaging.
It's behind the scenes info, so you heard it here first.
That's right, you heard it here.
We'll have that.
Okay, so no control. That's where we're going.
Yo.
The end is coming. The end is coming. The end is coming.
This just in. The end is in our future. Evidence has come to light. It's all deranged. No control. Sit tight in your corner. No point in making plans. It's all deranged. No control.
The science is clear. I'm afraid it's true. The end's really here.
There's nothing we can do.
And if I read these numbers right, our time is up.
Tomorrow night.
Time runs out tomorrow.
Time runs out tomorrow.
In our final hours, it's all deranged. No control.
The lava will flow and will burn when it does. Just ashes and smoke where me money once was.
There's gotta be a scheme. There's gotta be a plan.
I think we should run while we still can.
No control.
Stay away from the future. No point in making plans. It's all
Everyone's so scared and sad. Just one volcano that's not so bad. Until bikini bottom's gone, let's all keep calm and carry on. Lose control. I can't believe I know control. It's all deranged. It's coming. The end is coming. I can't believe I know control. It's all deranged. Coming. The end is coming. It's coming. The end is deranged.
If the world is gonna end tomorrow, wallowing in sorrow won't get us anywhere. You'll find all the strength you need is inside, like Poseidon riding across the tide. Don't let this moment pass by. Come on, hero is my middle name. Fixing trouble is my game. Just give it the old know-how. There's no better time than now. Don't give up and don't give in.
Yeah, if you're thinking sink or swim.
Oh yeah, courage is your claim to fame. When hero is your middle name, and hero is our middle name.
Well, that's nice, boys, but mine's Jennifer. My machines, they made a real prediction. It's not science fiction. There's nothing we can do at all.
Why are you waiting for the bottom to fall? Not the time to drop the big beach ball. All for one and one for all. All for one and one for all.
Amazing. Magnificent 7 at 107.3 HFM on this lovely Tuesday evening. I had listened to part of that, and I had made a note for myself in my head that I had to watch the volumes as we got towards the end, and completely forgot as I got involved in that. That was great. Absolutely great.
I do have a small question before we go divert. Sorry, I would like to divert you before you go into your next question. I think it's probably the way before we should
Do
look
so.
at it.
Divert away. Squirrel.
Squirrels. We love squirrels here. Squirrels are always exciting because you never know where the hell they're going.
Yes.
So, you have got quite an extensive cast for this, I'm sure.
Yep.
Talk to us about the musicians you got.
We have a 17-piece orchestra.
What?
Where'd you stuff all them?
What? Well, I actually know the Regal Theatre has got a nice
Regal
little
Theatre
spot
has
to stuff
got a
them.
pit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it takes them 3 hours, 4 guys 3 hours, or 2 guys 3 hours to get the pit out. So they're not happy with us that we want to use the pit, but yes, they're going in the pit.
Where they belong.
You were saying, we were chatting briefly about this off air, and you were saying they're a really accomplished and capable bunch of people.
Oh, yes.
From what you're seeing.
A lot of them have done degrees in music. Maddie and Sean are recent WAPA graduates. They're our musical directors. So they've assembled a very talented band of people. They're also playing in the orchestra as well. So Sean is conducting, and Maddie is our vocal director.
Okay.
But she's also playing keyboard too, I think, in
very
the orchestra.
multi-talented.
Very multi-talented. We've got 3 keyboards, 2 guitarists, a bass player, a drummer, a percussionist, 2 violins, cello, viola, trumpet, trombone.
And some of them are playing 2 or 3 different
sax,
instruments.
Flute.
Wow.
The sax player's playing flute, clarinet, and sax. Different types of sax: alto sax, bass sax.
Guitarist is playing
The guitarist
banjo.
is playing banjo, ukulele, slide guitar.
And all at the same time. It sounds very
I know,
impressive.
it's pretty amazing.
And then on top of all that, they're also conducting the Foley.
Yes.
So on stage there is a Foley who gives all sorts of sound effects.
Yep.
In between things like footsteps, explosions, bubble sounds.
So all that's live, is it?
It's
all
live,
that's live.
yeah.
Wow.
And
No wonder it's
so-
taking 2 of you.
Yes, and so Sean and Maddie also have that to contend with as well, to cue that in on time, and Michael's just fantastic. So he has his own sound bar, which we've built, which is a little tiki hut called the Sound Bar, which sits on stage, and he's a personality unto himself, but he creates all the sounds of Bikini Bottom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sound effects, yeah.
Gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you for that. Where were you going, Kay, before I diverted you?
I was going very serious.
Oh,
Yes.
I was,
Be
because
serious now.
we.
yes.
Yes,
I know where
coming
we're going.
towards the close of the show, and one of the questions we like to ask all of our experienced creatives, such as yourselves, is if you could be the arts minister for the day and you had the power to change something without having to think too much about all the politics around it, what would you choose to change?
Interesting. I actually think I would change the access to training in community theatre. I think that we give donations to these theatres to buy sound equipment, to buy lighting equipment, all these things that are necessary, but then they struggle to find people to be able to use them correctly. So they get all this new whiz-bang
Shiny stuff
that is very limited in what they can
And no
use
technical
because they don't
capability.
have the technical experience to back it up. And I think that is very, very important, and I'd like to see a sort of somehow be able to provide that as part of the donations that they get.
Funding that they get.
The funding that they get, that there must be some of the funding used towards training these people or providing them with experienced people, whether it be from WAPA or I know that the state theatre has several that work amongst, downstairs at the Madge, so they're not working all the time, that they could go out and do these types of jobs that would then enable the community theatres themselves to be able to diversify what they can do to fill those capabilities.
And improve,
and improve.
That's a really good answer.
Because, as you say, they buy all this whiz-bang stuff because they have to upgrade.
Yep.
But then they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So they're still putting on the same shows, but they're trying to attract younger audience, younger members. You'd attract younger members who would come along to learn about sound and lighting and backstage and that you don't get now.
Yep.
Because the older members don't necessarily know the capabilities of what these things do.
Yeah, I see what
They're
you
all
mean.
digital too now, so it's
because the
been a whole new
theatre's
world.
The theatre's always been good at transferring skills. You go in there and you get mentored from above.
Yeah.
But as you say, because the technology changes, the skills aren't in house to be able to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I wonder how much of that should come through at community theatre level and how much at high school level.
Yeah. It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's all
The
of
high
it.
schools are pretty good at it.
Yeah.
If they have some sort of theatre program, they actually do get professionals in, particularly the private schools. They'll get a professional in to set the desk up, show them how it runs, how it works. That doesn't happen at community theatre level.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the poor person who gets thrown on the lighting desk or the sound desk, if someone's not there to show them, they just have to work it out for themselves. That's where Mr. Google comes in.
Yeah.
Google how to use this desk.
It's not always different on a radio desk.
Yeah. And the thing is, with like we were talking about skill sets and that, lighting and sound is very much an artistic thing as well.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
according to the show is according to what lights and sound you need. And if you've got these whiz-bang things, but you can't use them, there's no point. It's like it's kind of wasting.
It's a different approach. I was working in theatres when those professional theatres were transitioning essentially from the static tungsten lights to the moving lights.
Yes.
And instead of having a single unit on stage where it's just on and off essentially, maybe with a fade, it could even be on a timer if you're really lucky. You were then going to these digital desks which allow you to control every single aspect of the colour that particular unit produces, where it's directed, whether it's actually throwing light at all or whether it's throwing a pattern, a gobo.
It's really exciting. It's exciting what you can do.
And then you have to break down that change into its different components, parts. So you have to turn the light off, change the colour, move it to where it's going to sit up,
but then you have to know how to use it. And the thing is that while people will think, it's only for theatre, it's not. It's about going to these corporate things where they put on shows, or the Royal Show, or conventions and things like that.
Absolutely.
That younger people, if they're learning it at that stage in community theatre, it could create a whole career for them.
Absolutely. And corporate eventing is a big thing, especially in WA.
It's huge
and
in
they're
WA.
very short-staffed in corporate eventing at the moment.
Yep.
It's a very lucrative business.
And if they've come to the theatre and they've had that training, it enables them to go and do that kind of thing rather than just go, I'm never going to make a career out of this. It actually lends itself into that kind of sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's excellent. Anything, Jane, do you want to add on a different topic?
I would like to have a theatre up in the Joondalup Wanneroo area. We've got one down in Mandurah, we've got one in Bunbury. Unfortunately, up in the Joondalup/Wanneroo Shires, they just like sport too much, I think. And we need a bit of... you guys are actually pretty good down here. Yeah, we need a bit of culture up in the northern suburbs. So I know that's sort of probably...
Oh, go on, say it.
No, that sounds like a good idea because we're not very balanced, is what you're saying.
The Joondalup Show was 5 years ago, I think. They were going to do a big entertainment centre like the one at Manpack in Mandurah. And the people...
said no.
The people said no.
Is that the
they voted it
population
down.
or the representatives?
population.
No,
Okay.
because it was that they were also doing a sport field as well. So they were, I think, at
We've
the time
got
it was
enormous
West Perth.
basketball stadium up there, and,
Yeah.
and the Eagles bloody, thing, and it's just, there's so many sporting venues, and they just throw money at sport, and there's no money going to
Culture.
They do a big arts festival, though, don't they?
They do.
Once a year, they do.
Yeah.
The lights thing.
It's
Yeah.
a lights. It's not
Right.
really an artistic type of thing. It
No.
kind of is, but it's more a parade of lights and
Yeah.
things rather than it be an
Right.
artistic
Yeah.
avenue.
Do you think that's being offset currently that by the prospect of putting the film school up at Whiteman Park, which is being tabled?
I think it could be, but I think mainly it's because they don't think it would be a success, because you have to have a really good community-based theatre that will be coming in and doing things there, or someone who will come in, like down in Mandurah they have a couple of people, Carol Jew, Karen Francis, who will come in and use the venue for their shows, besides the professional ones that come in. It's all about making some money and making it viable. And unfortunately, you don't have that, because there's only one or two community theatres up there, and they're very...
well, only two that have got their own theatre, basically.
And they're very insular.
Okay.
So therefore, they may not be open to doing those productions that are needed. Like, you couldn't do...
I think it's a case of, if you build it, they will come.
They will come.
They would definitely come if there was that venue available.
Yeah, you just need more regularity with it to be able to make money, I think, to make it viable. And that's why I think that it hasn't happened particularly up there, because the south, for some reason, I've lived in both suburbs, both
north
areas,
and south,
and the south is far more artistic oriented.
Absolutely.
The south and the east, whereas the north is not.
Okay. Do you think it's something that, referring back to our question about Minister of the Arts, what would you do? Do you think it's one of these occasions where the arts should be more generously funded centrally in order to support artistic endeavours which are not necessarily going to be money spinners?
Absolutely. I think that art and sport should be separated. It should not be on the same portfolio to start with.
Yep.
I think that was just a joke when they put them together. Because I've had a look at some funding for this show, actually, because we had problems with funding, and there was probably a couple that we could have applied for, and then the rest was sport, youth sport, this sport, that sport, and that was through the minister.
Is sport the new Colosseum? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've
lost my train of thought, sorry.
Let's go to a song.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to have a break, and we're going to listen to Cyndi Lauper.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of enthusiasm.
Second Chance Community Hub at Unit 1, 227 Railway Ave, Kelmscott is all about connecting the community. We specialise in costumes and retro goods and run various classes and workshops. So if you would like to share your skills and run a class or learn new skills, give Second Chance Community Hub a call on 6290 7068 or find Second Chance Community Hub on Facebook. Station sponsor.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community, is proudly supported by
Hugh Jones, member for Darling Range.
Dome Cafe, Armidale and Kelmscott.
Become a corporate member and support the voice of your community. Go to the webpage heritagefm.org for email details or to find out more.
To escape, the city was sticky and cruel. Maybe I should have called you first, but I was dying to get to you. I was dreaming while I drove the long kisses, your arms open wide. This fever for you is just burning me up inside. I drove all night to get to you. Is that alright? I drove all night, cooked in your room, looking from your sleep to make love to you. I drove all night. Taste your sweet kisses, your arms open wide. This fever for you was just burning me up inside. I drove all
And welcome back. That was Cyndi Lauper, I Drove All Night. This is Heritage FM 107.3, The Magnificent Seven. I'm James, and this is Kay.
Me.
And we've got our delightful Dave and Jane opposite us on the desk tonight. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Fabulous.
It's been fun having a bit of chat to you.
Yeah, you've been really interesting off air as well.
Yes.
All the gossip and all the dirty details come out, and we just can't pass those on. It's
It's a family show.
I do know all about Zoe, your production manager, though, now. So
Yes,
that's really interesting.
Wow, what we could say about Zoe.
Yeah, I'll be seeing her on Thursday.
Oh, good.
Now, it's that time of the night. We are looking for dinner. So, do you have... If you have the opportunity to invite any 8 guests, alive, dead, fictional or not, who would you invite?
That's really interesting. It's
your family is not allowed to be
No.
invited as part of this number.
No. I would be fascinated just because I saw Blonde on Netflix just recently, and I'd love to ask Marilyn Monroe and
why not?
discuss that whole
And why not? Yes.
thing. I really would like. Interestingly enough, I find Michelle Obama fascinating. I'd like
Excellent
to sit and
choice.
ask her.
Are you going to sit
some
those two
things.
together?
No. No.
Okay. You're going to sit between them.
Sit between them.
All right.
There's worse places to sit.
I think exactly. I think that I really would like Meryl Streep. I think that
You got some power women coming to your dinner.
Yeah.
You'll definitely not get a word in edgeways.
No, and that's fine. I'd love to just sit and listen to them converse.
So, can you give me some reasons why you'd have Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
I just find her so eloquent. She's a very good speaker, and I like the gossip. I'd like to know what she really thinks about certain things, and without any sort of media around and stuff like that, to hear what she had to say about the White House and certain things that happened.
Okay, so on with your list. That was Marilyn, Michelle, and Meryl. That's all M's, by the way.
Yeah, that's
all women.
Really, well, my sister is my late sister was named Marilyn, so
okay,
that's one of the reasons. I'm gonna go with another woman, Betty Davis, because I think Betty Davis would be fascinating to talk to about the olden era. Then, probably if we talk Elton John. I think Elton John would be fun because he could play for us. He could play for us.
He's got a few stories to tell as well.
I think he'd have quite a few stories, and with that, having Freddie Mercury there as well.
Oh, you stole him from me.
Have the two of them would be.
Did you see that they've found and released a new Queen track with young Freddie performing on it?
Yes, and I just find that horrifying that they do that all the time now. They've done it with a lot of Prince's material, which is another one you could put down there. How many have you got now?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more, sir.
One more. Probably Shakespeare.
Okie dokie.
God, I hate Shakespeare.
Just to understand his writings and, what was happening back then, I find it fascinating how a lot of stuff that we have now is based on Shakespearean times. Like drag is such a huge thing now with RuPaul and that started out from dressed as a girl from Shakespearean times, and it's sort of interesting how it's turned around
Is that
again.
how that came about? It's actually an anecdote.
Absolutely, dressed as a girl is
Good
drag,
gracious.
and that because they in Shakespearean times the boys everybody was played by a boy.
Yep.
I didn't know that, so that's me informed tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. You can go now. Jane, who would you come out with other than Freddie Mercury?
I love Paul McCartney.
Okay.
And I think he's been a real stayer in the music industry.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely amazing. He's super fit, and he's obviously a vegetarian, or he might even be vegan now. I saw him when he came out last time to Perth, and he was on that stage for 2.5 hours, and he was like 82 or something, and he was just amazing. And he seems like a really nice person, so I'd really like to have a chat to him. I'd like to talk to Gandhi. He lived through some really tumultuous times, and I'd really like to sort of dig into how he saw the world, and what's the best way to go about living your life. Because none of us are ever going to have the trials and tribulations that he went through, and so he's probably got some really good advice about dealing with things, that everyday stuff that you have to deal with. Yeah. Oh, geez, it's going to be hard. I should have thought about this beforehand. I really like Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
He's a bit of a modern day philosopher. Really like his ideas on how your brain works, and I can't remember exactly what he does, but I know I've read a lot of his books, and he's a really weird guy, but very interesting to listen to.
Yeah, he's got some
very interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd really like to meet Pink. She's great. She's the most sort of fierce lady, and she's such a great writer. I love her songs. She puts so much emotion and everything into her songs.
And effort into her shows as well.
Yeah, she's just amazing. And she's so physical. She just puts 100% into everything she does. And I love Cher as well. So I used to watch her on telly in the 70s, when she was doing the Sonny and Cher show. And I was just always fascinated with her. She's always been just so beautiful, and
I think she's very down to earth.
And even now, even though she's had all the plastic surgery and everything, she's just, every time I see her in something, like she was in that Mamma Mia thing, I thought, she's just so elegant, and I love her.
I think you're talking about the plastic surgery that Cher may or may not have had.
That she wants to deny.
It's really interesting that we often decry people for renovating themselves, if you want to put it that way, but we also forget that their whole job is how they look to the public.
That's exactly right. Dolly Parton's another one. I love her whole persona, and how she says it costs a lot of money to look this cheap.
Yes.
Yeah,
I understand. Okay, so that is now 5. Do we have any more from you? Good answers, by the way, so far.
Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco. He's a most talented man, and I'd really like to sort of have a bit of a chat to him about his rise to stardom, because they've been around for a long time now, Panic at the Disco, and they're still going strong. Sorry?
Cindy.
Oh, Cindy Lauper.
You'd have Cindy?
Yeah. Yeah, she's great.
This is going to be a seriously star-studded table.
It is. It's interesting that we were talking, I can't remember now if it was on air or off air, about the benefits of theatre to people who might have, mental health situations. We all have mental health, obviously, and
Yes.
we're all on a spectrum and all that sort of thing. But I think, some of the people you've lifted there are going to be slightly off-centre when it comes to their mental health.
Yeah.
And that really comes out in their creativity and their powerhouse as...
That's where the creativity comes from.
Yeah.
I think people may not realise that it's Heath Ledger. He can be my last one. Heath.
That's the organiser, in the back of your mind, finishing off the 8.
Yeah. Yeah, Heath Ledger is just, he was an amazing actor and such a method actor as well. And he was so torn. He didn't believe in himself, and he had so many problems with his depression. It's just like, but that's what it is. You look at people like Robin Williams, and they're all people who have had serious health problems.
I have a friend who puts herself into this category, but she refers to the neurologically diverse community as a spicy-brained people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lovely little phrase.
And we're all slightly spicy, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
But if you think about it too, like when people do go to hospital for their anxiety or their mental issues or anything like that, and they're in there for a significant amount of time, they don't play sport or anything. They paint.
Yeah, they revert back to the
creative side because it centres them and it calms them and it brings them back. And that's what I think we forget about, particularly when we were talking about funding previously, is that it helps in so many ways.
There are people that go to the gym for that, but I'm not one of them. Look, I'm going to jump ahead because we're actually coming up for 9 o'clock and we're meant to be finishing up right now, and I wanted to run through a couple of things before we go. You may or may not know that as well as this show, I actually co-host Making IT Easy on Saturday fortnights.
It was fun doing it this weekend, by the way.
It was, wasn't it?
While
You
she was
sounded
gadding
great.
around.
I wasn't gadding. I was sitting at the Singapore airport listening to you.
You have gadded, though.
I had gadded before that point, yes.
Is that even a verb?
Yes. We had actually quite a few people at Singapore airport listening to you. Yes,
Ooh.
it was very, so not next Saturday, but the Saturday after, Tony and I will be doing a deep dive into self-education and brain training. The app of the day is going to be TikTok, because we learnt how many people have been watching TikTok episodes. Our listener question is going to be on cookies and what they are, and if you have listener questions, you can try and get them to us via the social media in advance. And next Tuesday, James and I, you are doing a special show.
Yes, as some of you may or may not know, I'm at TAFE doing an advanced diploma in commercial product development, or how to be a professional commercial photographer in short. So we are coming up to the end of our year's diploma course, and we're doing an end of year show.